I am so excited to have Katrina here today. She is a stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer survivor. She's amazing. We've connected here on social media, and she is willing to be a part of Learn Look Locate as a spokesperson to get the education out there on this very rare yet aggressive form of breast cancer. And she has continued to educate me on the specifics of this disease, this part of this disease of breast cancer. So I'm honored to have her here today to share with you more about her experience with being diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer and her passion to help people understand this particular type. So, Katrina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of why you want to do this and what you want to do with your passion towards what happened?
My name's Katrina. I live in North Carolina. I am 45 years old. I was diagnosed when I was 42 years old. So I'm currently 3 years cancer free. It's very exciting. And when you reached out to me about being a spokesperson for this, I thought, this is what I've been looking for. It's another way to be able to get my voice out there so people hear my story about inflammatory breast cancer. Now, throughout this interview, if I refer to it as IBC, that's what I'm talking about, just so everybody knows it's
Yes.
inflammatory. I had heard of IBC before, and I was so glad that I did because then I wouldn't have gone home and Googled all this stuff and seen all of the non-updated information that's out there about IBC. The reason I want to do this is to put this out there so women are familiar with this type of breast cancer because it is so aggressive. Even though it's rare, it's aggressive and it's one that we need to watch and really look at ourselves to see if there's any changes in our bodies or anything to get to our doctors to make sure that that's not what's going on.
What changes did you see, Katrina? And do you have any family
Um,
history? That's the big.
At the time, I had no family history of breast cancer. I will say that after I was diagnosed, as soon as they told me I was cancer free after my treatments, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer as well, but a completely different kind. She had a lump in her breast and she had triple negative breast cancer. Mine, of course, was inflammatory, and mine was HER2 positive and ER/PR negative. So we had two totally different kinds that we were negative for, with genetic testing. So none of that was there. So it was just a random thing that hit us both when she was 80 and I was 42. So yeah, the signs that I saw, my story, it says I was in the shower. My story always starts the same way. I was in the shower. And when I went to rub the soap across the upper part of my chest into my underarm, I hit a hard area over here. It was like a pulled tight muscle. And the soap flopped out of my hand because it was so hard. And I did not expect that. So I was just sort of feeling around in there and it was tender and it hurt, and I thought that I had must have pulled a muscle swimming or something because we have a pool, but that's not what it was. When I got out of the shower, I looked at myself in the mirror and I could tell that my left breast was slightly larger than my right breast, and very quickly my breast started getting harder and harder and harder, that whatever was going on over there, the cancer starting, I guess, was spreading and I could feel it. I mean, my breast was getting harder. It was starting to turn pink and then eventually it was getting red. So, yeah, it was moving very quickly. And like I said, I had heard of IBC before, so I'm thinking, I hope that's not what's going on. I hope this isn't what I have. Shortly after that, I had already had a mammogram scheduled, so I thought I'll just ask them when I go. Let's see what's going on. They'll be able to tell me. And the technician took one look at me and said, I can't do your mammogram. There's definitely something going on here. And so she ran and got the doctor. And the doctor said, yeah, I think we need to take a closer look at this. I don't think there's anything seriously wrong, but I would like for you to get an ultrasound done and a 3D mammogram. I was going like the next day to get that done. I mean, it was, yeah, they sent me in for that mammogram, the 3D mammogram, and my breast tissue by that time, this was 2 weeks later since the initial feeling in my underarm. My breast tissue at that so hardened that the MRI machine could not work on me. It kept sending us an error signal because it could not get a reading. It couldn't compress me enough. And it hurt so bad because it was so inflamed and everything. It was terrible. But they finally got the machine to work. The radiologist looked at him and he said he didn't see anything on there, but he wanted me to have an ultrasound. So I had the ultrasound done and he said he didn't see anything on there, but he thought I had inflammatory breast cancer. So that
What
was
were you
it. That's
thinking?
how this
What
whole
were
thing
you
started.
what were you thinking all this time? What was going through
I
your
I
mind?
I kind of went into, I don't even know if I want to call it shock, but when he said that, it was like that video that I had watched years before that about inflammatory breast cancer came right back into my mind. And it was like, if this is what I have, I can't believe it. I'm going to die if this is what I have. Because that's all I knew about it, was that it was aggressive and that you got to catch it fast or you're going to die, you know? And I was scared, but I was trying not to overreact because I thought, who does that? What kind of radiologist sits there and tells you that without there being a biopsy or anything? Well, the next thing I know, I'm getting calls to go have a biopsy done. And so we got that set up. Within a week, I was getting a surgical biopsy done. And they told me right there in recovery from my surgery that I had cancer. And I had a reaction to it that I was, looking back on it, I was surprised that I reacted the way that I did because I felt relief in a sense because it was almost like I knew somehow, I don't, the back of my mind, maybe because I was so aware from that inflammatory breast cancer video that I had seen. It was almost like I knew it was coming for me or something. And so the relief was like, all right, let's get this over with. Let's do it, get through it. It was like the worry was kind of gone then. It your brain just does strange things when you're in traumatic situations like that. And so
Almost like
that's really what I was
the
dealing with.
waiting, not knowing, and then the
Yeah.
knowing.
Not knowing what was going on was hard. But then finding out, it was like, okay. And I remember my doctor saying to me, we're gonna find out what kind this is and we're gonna kill it, meaning whether it was HER2 positive or triple negative or whatever. So, and I lay there, half awake, coming out of anesthesia, and I said, well, God, gonna take care of me. Because my faith is important to me. And the doctor said, yes, and we're all gonna take care of you. And I said, what do I tell my daughter? Because my daughter was 6 at the time, and I thought, "How do I tell my six-year-old daughter that I have this really terrible type of breast cancer? How is she gonna get through this?" And my daughter, we know now, is on the autism spectrum, so we were dealing at that time just with her being who she is, but not knowing why she seemed different than a lot of kids. But, anyway, she handled it like a champ. That little girl was my strength throughout this whole thing. She was absolutely amazing.